So to practice for the quiz test, it's kind of like a smallish test. Tomorrow, here are some problems that you can do. I've got a parabola on the board that they're in red there, and I'd like you to find its x-intercepts, the y-intercept, axis of symmetry, etc. All those things, they're all easy questions, and I should be able to fly through that. I think there's 8 things there. Yep, and try to get those done. I'll pause it while you work on those. Okay, so let's go through the answers. X-intercepts. I would not want you to say -3 and -1 because I would want you to say them in terms of a point, you know, like a ordered pair. So what is at this spot? Yes, that's an x-intercept, but what is its official name? -3, comma 0. All right, hold on a second here. -1, 0. How many are on the right track so far? Okay, good. If you didn't know where the x-intercepts was by now, that'd be really sad. Okay, the y-intercept is that one, but I wouldn't say 3. I would say what, comma what? The y-intercept is where x is 0, so that's got to be a 0. Axis of symmetry, that's that line that runs right down here, but you wouldn't say -2. What would you say? X equals -2. Good. The vertex, that's that spot right there, and that's just a point. What, comma what? Good. Is it a max or a min? It's a minimum because it kind of goes down like this, and it's the lowest point it gets to. The factored form, well, you look at these 2 places here, the 2 roots, and you say, well, they are going to look like this, factored, and they go through -3 and -1. So I don't put -3 and -1 in here, though I put +3 and +1. Because -3 has to solve it and make this 0. And -1 has to solve this and make this 0. So what I wrote in green there, that was factored form. General form, generally, you just multiply it out. So you should have multiplied it out and got x squared plus the outside would be x, inside would be 3x, 4x. Lasts, 3 times 1 is 3. And I really need a y equals in front of these things to make them equations. The last one is vertex form, has a parentheses, has a squared, has an x, and then the vertex just gets popped in here and here. And the vertex is -2, -1. It's counterintuitive, so I say +2 in there because it's inside the parentheses, and -1. Raise your hand if you had all of those right. It's a very good sign for tomorrow's quiz. All right, moving on. Let's complete the square. The blue one is an easy complete the square. Try that one, please. The only thing that's hard about it is it's got a fraction in the answer or a decimal, and no calculators are allowed on the test, so we should know no calculators now either. See if you can handle it. Okay, so I wrote it out with the 2 squares, the plus box, minus box, and this part is the perfect square part, so we need half and square to come back, and half of 3 is 2, no, half of 3 is 3 over 2. Or you could say 1.5. Either one of those would have been fine. But then you got to square it. If you take 1.5 and you square it, you get 2.25. Or if you did 3 over 2 and square it, it's really not too bad to use the fraction here, because then you square it and you get 9 over 4. So you could put 9 over 4 in here if you want, or that's 2.25. But I've got to put it in both spots. Then my final answer comes out to be x plus the square root of that, which is 3 over 2, and I think that's easier than trying to figure out what the square root of 2.25 is. And then this makes, let's see, negative, help me out, 1.25, okay, or you could say 1 1/4. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, good. Now the harder one on the bottom here, the one in red, is the kind where you got to take that number out of the first 2 terms. You don't, unlike normal factoring, you don't have to have the number go into all 3 terms. You just have to have it go into the first 2 terms. And once you found that, you factor it out. Make sure that when you do your plus box, minus box thing, that you factor in that there's a number out in front. Okay, give it a try. I'll pause while you work on that. Here we go. This one, we got to factor out the 3. And we have x squared plus, factor the 3 out of the 12 gives us 4x. Then I need my plus box, minus box. and then I have the plus 5 at the end. This is the perfect square part. And I have the 3 here. Now, at this point, it'd be really smart for me to put in this 3 here. Why? Because this 3 is going to be multiplied by this box. I have to also multiply this box by 3. You may not be using boxes, but you've at least got to multiply that number by 3. X plus 2 squared, and this number, half n squared, 2 squared is, or half of 4 is 2, 2 squared is 4. 4. And so then that means it being negative 12, and then plus, yep, negative 12 plus 5 makes negative 7. Raise your hand if you had the same thing as I do. Good. If you struggled with that, there is more practice that you can do before the test tomorrow. One more topic. You have to be able to handle things like that. The square root of negative 96. Okay. You may not know that one in your head, and I don't. It's not a perfect square, so it's going to break into a perfect square, though. So go ahead and try to figure out what you could break that into and simplify a square root of negative 96 for me. And if you get done with that really quick, you can move on to the last one, which is this simplifying that complex number down at the bottom. Or pause while you work on that. Say you don't know what you can break negative 96 down into, but you know it's an even number. Well, then at least you can do this. Square root of 2, square root of something, and the square root of negative 1. 2 times what makes 96? 48. And that would be a start. Now, even though the 2 and the 48, neither one of them is a perfect square. You can do that. Because 2's are nice, because if I can get another 2 to come out, this one could break into root 2 and root 24. Now, the handy thing is that I got 2 square roots of 2 here. And what is the square root of that? 2. Because it's square root of 4, which is 2. So it's 2 root 24, and then I. Can I go farther? Yes, I can. The 24 can be broken up again. The square root of 4 and the square root of 6, and an I. And the square root of 4 is really 2, so it's 2 times 2 root 6 and an I. And then it's 4, and I'm going to put the I next, square root of 6. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Good. And the last one. I'll extend my page up here. This one, it's important that you first simplify this, and then you can start finding something that goes into all 3 of those things and reducing it that way. Okay, give it a shot. Okay, I have replaced the square root of negative 8 with all of that. Why? Because this one is a perfect square, and that one is I. So then I got 4 plus or minus 2 times this one becomes a 2, and 2 times 2 is 4, and then I have an I and square root of 2 all over 10. Can I leave it that way? No, because something goes into all 3 of them. What goes into all 3 of them? 2 does, and 2 goes into the 4 twice, plus or minus 2 goes into the 4 twice, all over 2 goes into the 10 5 times, and that is the way you leave it. I get asked that a lot. Do I have to keep going? No, because it's got that I in it, and it's got that square root of 2 in it, and I don't need you to go and figure out what decimals that would be. For nothing else, because the I is an imaginary number. You can't really write in that it's the square root of negative 1, because there is no such thing, really. You can't go get a decimal for it. So you'd have to stop if there's an I in it. All right. But what if, on the other hand, you had an answer that looks like this, 2 plus or minus 8? Should you leave it that way? No, because you can go farther with that and give the 2 answers, which would be what and what? 10 and negative 6. Good. Okay. All right, that's all I think we needed to do to prepare for today. So I'll stop my video.